Have you ever heard someone say, "Don't keep plants in your bedroom, they'll suck up all the oxygen while you sleep"? Yep, I've heard it too. And not just from random folks, some say it with full confidence, like they're saving your life. Meanwhile, the poor plant is just sitting there like, "Bro, I'm literally just vibing." But let's clear something up. Plants are not out here stealing your oxygen. Nobody's suffocating overnight because a fern is sitting in the corner. Now here's the real kicker. Most people think photosynthesis is how plants breathe. They take in carbon dioxide, release oxygen, and boom, clean air. That's only half true. The surprising fact? Plants actually breathe just like we do, all day, all night. They take in oxygen and release carbon dioxide exactly like humans. Wait, what? Then why do they produce oxygen? Good question, and we'll get there. The big thing to remember is photosynthesis is not breathing. They're two completely different processes. Breathing is how living things turn food into energy. Photosynthesis, that's how plants make the food in the first place. It's their version of eating. So yes, plants do breathe, but they also photosynthesize, and that's where the real magic happens. Let's break it down further in the next part. Humans eat with their mouths. We sit down, look at a menu, pick a burger, chew it, swallow it. Boom, energy. But plants, no mouths, no stomachs, no DoorDash. So how the heck do they eat? Turns out plants eat with their roots and leaves. The roots act like straws, pulling in water and nutrients from the soil. And the leaves, they're like little solar panels, sucking in sunlight and air. Here's what's on the plant's menu every day. Carbon dioxide from the air, water from the ground, and sunlight from the sky. When these three ingredients come together, the magic happens inside tiny green structures in the leaf called chloroplasts. Inside those chloroplasts, plants cook up sugar.
Nice.
Delicious plant-made sugar that fuels growth. Cellulose for wood and leaves fructose for fruits. And more, all from that green kitchen in the leaves. But what about the oxygen we breathe? Well, that's actually a byproduct, left over from the plant's cooking process. The plant doesn't need it, so it just releases it into the air. Lucky for us. So when a plant is photosynthesizing, it's not breathing, it's eating. It's building itself one sugar molecule at a time. And here's the twist. Just like us, plants need energy to use that sugar, which brings us to something you might not expect. Yes, plants breathe too. Let's get into that next. You might be thinking, okay, so plants make their own sugar. That's their food, right? Should be good to go. But here's the thing. Having food isn't the same as using it. It's like owning instant ramen, but having no hot water. You're still hungry. Same with plants. They've got sugar from photosynthesis, but they can't do much with it, not without oxygen. So, yeah, plants breathe too. They take in oxygen from the air, send it to their cells, and use it to burn the sugar for energy. This process is called cellular respiration. And it's basically the same thing our bodies do when we break down food. That energy, it powers everything a plant needs to survive, pulling water from the roots, moving sugar around to the fruit and leaves, growing flowers and seeds, even healing damage from bugs or bad weather. All of that takes energy, and energy needs oxygen. But here's the cool part. Plants don't need that much. They're not running marathons, thinking deep thoughts, or binge-watching Netflix. So while they do breathe, the amount of oxygen they use is tiny, way less than what they release during photosynthesis. In short, plants eat more than they breathe. That's why they're still net producers of oxygen and why they're so essential to life on Earth.
Oh my God!
At this point, you might be thinking, hold on, plants take in carbon dioxide and release O2 during the day, right? But they also breathe in O2 and release carbon dioxide all day and night. Sounds like a loop, like they're undoing their own work. But here's the catch. Plants photosynthesize way more than they breathe. Think of it like this. Photosynthesis is the plant's full-time job. Respiration, just a side hustle. The amount of oxygen plants release during the day is far greater than the tiny bit they use when they breathe. Why? Because plants don't move around like we do. They're not chasing buses or doing jumping jacks. They just sit still, soak up sun, and slowly grow. Low energy lifestyle, low oxygen demand. Meanwhile, when the sun's out, their internal sugar factory is working overtime, turning light, water and carbon dioxide into sugar and oxygen at high speed. So no, plants aren't cancelling themselves out. They're still net producers of oxygen. They give more than they take.
Nice.
Two processes, photosynthesis and respiration, coexist without stepping on each other's toes. One makes the food, the other uses it. Simple as that. So far, we've been talking like trees are the only superheroes in the world of photosynthesis. But guess what? Trees only do half the job.
What?
The other half happens where you'd least expect it, underwater. In oceans, lakes, even puddles on the sidewalk, there are tiny living things like algae, cyanobacteria, and phytoplankton. They're microscopic, some so small you can't even see them without a microscope, but they produce just as much oxygen as all the forests on Earth combined. One of the OGs of this process is the cyanobacteria. These little guys have been around for over 3 billion years, and they were actually the first organisms ever to do photosynthesis. Even cooler, plants learned photosynthesis from them. Here's the backstory. Billions of years ago, one of the ancestors of today's plants ate a cyanobacterium, but instead of digesting it, they became roommates, living together, helping each other out. Over millions of generations, this partnership turned into something more permanent. The cyanobacterium became part of the plant cell, evolving into what we now call the chloroplast, that little green factory that powers photosynthesis. So yeah, trees are impressive, but without these microscopic creatures, there would be no photosynthesis at all. Today, cyanobacteria still exist, and they're responsible for producing about 20% of Earth's oxygen every year. Bottom line, the next time you take a deep breath, maybe thank the ocean too. Here's a question that freaks some people out. At night, plants stop making oxygen, but they still breathe. So, are they stealing our air while we sleep? Some folks even avoid keeping plants in the bedroom because they think the plants will suck up all the oxygen overnight. But let me tell you, you don't need to worry. Yes, it's true. At night, without sunlight, plants can't photosynthesize, so they pause oxygen production. But the amount of oxygen they consume while breathing, it's tiny, like really tiny. To put it in perspective, a small houseplant, like a succulent or peace lily, uses so little oxygen at night, it couldn't even snuff out a birthday candle. Meanwhile, your bedroom holds thousands of litres of air, plenty for both you and your leafy roommate to breathe just fine. And if you're really worried about oxygen, just know that your dog or cat uses way more oxygen than all your plants combined. So no, your plant isn't secretly trying to suffocate you at night. In fact, many houseplants can clean the air, reduce dust, and absorb small amounts of toxins. They're doing you a favour. Moral of the story, let the plant stay. It's not plotting anything. Probably. Hate to break it to you, but yes, absolutely. Plants, and all photosynthetic organisms, don't need humans to survive. They were thriving hundreds of millions of years before we ever showed up. And if humans disappeared tomorrow, plants would just keep growing like nothing happened. No drama. Here's what they need: light, water, carbon dioxide, and minerals from the soil. That's it. No need for bread, gossip, or social media likes. But us? We can't live without plants. No plants means no oxygen. No plants means no food, no wood, no shade. No plants means a lifeless earth. So yeah, this relationship isn't exactly equal. We depend on plants for almost everything. Plants, they'd be just fine without us, but that doesn't mean we're useless. Actually, plants need us not to destroy their home. We're cutting down forests, polluting rivers, heating the planet, and plants can't exactly call for help. So if we're smart, we'll be good roommates on this planet. Not because plants need us, but because we seriously need them. It sounds impossible, but yes, some plants don't need sunlight to survive. More specifically, they don't need light to make their own energy through photosynthesis. Because they don't photosynthesize at all. Wait, how can a plant survive without making its own food? Well, here's the trick. They steal energy from other organisms. Take the Balanophora plant, for example, found in tropical parts of Asia. It has no chlorophyll, no green leaves, no photosynthesis. Instead, it attaches its roots to other plants and sucks nutrients directly from them, like a full-time freeloader. Or look at Cuscuta, also known as dodder or witch's hair. As a young sprout, it looks like a thin orange string. But once it finds a host, it wraps itself around the stem, sticks in feeding tubes, and drains the host plant's sap. These are called parasitic plants. They survive entirely off the energy and nutrients of others. No sunlight needed. Of course, most plants on Earth do rely on sunlight, but nature always has its oddballs, and these non-photosynthetic plants are living proof. Short answer? Most of them can't, because photosynthesis needs light, and at night, well, there's no light. But as always in nature, there's an interesting exception. Some plants, especially those that live in dry, desert-like environments like cacti and succulents, use a special trick called CAM photosynthesis. CAM stands for crassulacean acid metabolism. Sounds fancy, but stick with me. Here's how it works. At night, the plant opens tiny pores called stomata and takes in carbon dioxide from the air. It does this at night to avoid losing water in the heat. It stores that CO2 in its cells, like groceries in the fridge. During the day, when the sun rises, it uses sunlight to do photosynthesis, using the CO2 it saved up the night before. In other words, plants don't photosynthesize at night, but some of them secretly prep their ingredients while it's dark, so they're ready to go the moment light hits. This strategy helps them survive extreme heat and dryness, where opening their pores during the day would mean losing precious water. So next time you see a cactus just sitting there in the dark, it might look lazy, but trust me, it's planning its morning grind. Oh yes, and not just one, there's a whole gang of them. We call them carnivorous plants. But don't worry, they're not snacking on humans. Their diet, mostly insects, worms, and sometimes tiny fish. Why would a plant eat animals? Because they grow in places where the soil is super poor in nutrients, especially nitrogen and phosphorus, which plants need to survive. So instead of relying on the ground, they trap and digest living creatures to get what they need. Here are a few famous plant predators. Pitcher plants. Their leaves form a deep cup filled with liquid. Insects fall in and can't climb back out. Dinner is served. Venus flytraps. Two lobes snap shut like jaws when an insect touches their trigger hairs. It's fast, dramatic, and very satisfying to watch. Sundews. Their sticky, tentacle-like hairs grab and glue bugs in place, then slowly curl around them like a hug of doom. Now, just to be clear, these plants still do photosynthesis like regular plants, but they supplement their diet with a little meat on the side. Nature really said, why not both? And there you have it, our journey through the weird and wonderful world of photosynthesis, from sunlight-fueled sugar factories to meat-eating plants, and even desert survivors that prep at night. Nature never runs out of clever ideas. Maybe next time you walk past a tree, you'll realize it's not just a plant. It's a tiny green genius, quietly working to keep our planet alive, and every breath you take, yeah, that's a little gift from those leaves. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment to let me know what you'd love to learn about next. Until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.